Here are some more ways to have a conversation with someone and to add some good professional and thoughtful responses into a conversation. So this could be a conversation that is happening in a classroom during class discussion. It could even be a recorded conversation to each other if you are learning remotely. And it could be a conversation that you take on with you when you go to a higher education situation, or if you get a job somewhere and you need to converse in the workplace. So there are lots of different ways to add to a conversation. And a lot of times when you are talking, there are certain things that you'll need to do. One of the things that you need to do is support ideas that you have. In an academic setting, it is really important to be able to support the things that you say in class discussion or that you present in an academic paper. Your teachers and professors, and possibly even your classmates, may ask you to support a claim or an idea or an argument that you have. So one way to support your idea is that you present your idea and you talk about what your idea is, and then you support it with evidence. So you can say in the text it states or says this. And remember, this is an ellipsis, which means the sentence goes on. So if you see 3 dots, it means the sentence is continued. So this would just be the beginning of your sentence. And you would say, in the textbook, it says this. It states this. This is my evidence. This shows that the textbook supports my idea and my argument. You can also provide an example by saying, for example. So my idea is this, and for example, here is a clear example that illustrates or explains or shows what my idea is all about. I know my idea is correct because sometimes you are presenting an argument and you know it's correct because you have all this evidence. Well, you can present your evidence. You could say, I know that what I'm saying makes sense and is correct because of these different reasons. And then you have to present your reasons. And you can also say something as simple as, in fact, because this is all about facts, not fiction, not fake stuff, but facts, true things. So if you say, in fact, and then present a statistic or show an example or have a piece of evidence that you have read about or something like that, then you have just supported your idea. So the big idea for this is that you should always relate your idea and your support from class or another source. So maybe if we were talking about something in class, you could say, well, I know my idea is correct because the other day, last class, we were saying this. Or in the textbook, on this page, it says this, and this supports my idea. For example, the book that we're reading right now in class says, so all of these things go to a trusted source or a valid source. Maybe you have research. Maybe another teacher said something or something you learned in a different class is acceptable. But think about something that you can trust and that no one can argue that it's not true. So you want to have a valid or trusted source when you are supporting your ideas. Now, another thing that you will often have to do during conversations or class discussions is to clarify or to explain something that you have just said, or maybe that somebody else has said too. So I'm talking about something, and a classmate says to me, I'm confused. What do you mean by that? Well, you want to clarify or explain yourself. Tell them more about what you are saying. So you could say, in other words, and then guess what? You have to use other words to explain yourself. So sometimes it's really helpful to say things one way and then to say them a different way to make sure that people understand. You can also clarify by saying, well, what I'm saying is this. And you might have to, again, use other or different words to say what you're saying, to sum it up in a different way. You can also clarify somebody else's writing or speaking by saying what he is saying is maybe the author. You're talking about the author of a book, and your classmate says, I don't understand what they're talking about there. And you want to clarify. So you can say, I think what the author is saying is this. And then again, guess what? You're using other words. Not the same words that the author originally wrote, but your own words to clarify or to explain and give further information. And another way to explain this is to say, another way to explain this is this. See what I did there? I used my own sentence starter. So you're clarifying something, you are explaining something to someone, and so you can say, oh, okay, I get that you're confused. Another way I can explain this is this. And then you have to use other words to explain what you mean by that. So when you're having a conversation, use different things to support your ideas so that you make your argument stronger. And if people are confused or need more information, you can clarify what you're saying, or sometimes what someone else is saying too, by using some of these sentence starters.